don't really feel like I need to intro you, Mark, but we are here with Mark Shaefer, who's a big time marketing author and one of the big inspirations for me in validation of what I was working on when I started working on this idea of pioneering community as business development. I read one of my first clients sent me the Marketing Rebellion, and I was like, oh, somebody's out there talking about this stuff. and, and it was a new experience for me. But Mark, I would love to I'd love to just kind of start off with what is when I read Marketing Rebellion, I was just like, this is it. This is everything that we're talking about. I didn't think that there was another community book beyond that, right? Like what is the iteration from then to now that makes it, that makes this thing different?
Yeah, well, Marketing Rebellion, as you're sort of suggesting, was a wake up call, and it was a shot across the bow to marketers who that things just weren't working like they used to. We were sort of in a trough, just doing the same things over and over again. Meanwhile, our customers have moved away from us. They've got the accumulated knowledge of the human race in the palm of their hands. I thought when I wrote the book, I thought marketing people would hate it. But luckily, there were enough people like you out there that said, yeah, I know it, I feel it, and this is what we need to do. Now, one of the chapters in the book was about this idea of belonging and community. And immediately when I finished the book, I knew that was probably the most important chapter in the book. I really saw that as the future of marketing. Now, who would have known, but 1 year later, exactly 1 year after I published the book, the pandemic happened. And it really validated a lot of the ideas in the book. 85% of Americans said their number one source of social interaction during the pandemic was an online community. Community just exploded to fill that need of longing and connectiveness that we all have as humans. Now, the big idea, and I think what's unique about this new book, Belonging to the Brand, community isn't new, but this is the first book that looks at community through the lens of brand marketing. Now, I was lucky to meet you, who is pioneering this idea. So I was happy to feature you as an important case study in the book.
Thanks, man. I was literally just taking a walk around the block with my niece because I'm in Miami for the holidays, and just talking about like I'm about to come out in this book by this author that I've like read, and it's like a big thing. So I'm really honored that you put me in there, and that it's a big moment for me. I don't know if you know this, man, but I parachuted into marketing, right? Like I didn't come
Yeah,
from the marketing world, right? Like I
yeah.
came just more from this like business development, Fortune 500 middle level manager guy that got involved in nonprofits and found the power of community. And that's what got me into marketing. So I think that's why I resonated with your book immediately. And that's where I thought it was going. But for you, what was the moment? Can you tell me about the moment where you're like, I got it. The next book needs to be about community. Was
Yeah.
there like a major thing that hit you across the face?
Well, first, I want to build on your first comment that one of the things I love about you is that you parachuted into marketing, because that's who we need. We have too many people that they have a mindset that's based in the old ways, and it's the young people today that are teaching us new ways of marketing, because you have an instinct about what you love and what you don't love. And the power of what you're doing, Pablo, is that community is the only kind of marketing people love,
Hmm.
right? They want to get rid of ads, they want to get rid of interruptions, they want to get rid of spam. They don't want, their mailboxes filled with direct mail stuff. They're worried about their privacy, but community makes us feel good. It helps us with self-esteem and identity, and all those great emotions in community spill over to the brand sponsoring them. I had been thinking about sort of building on that chapter in Marketing Rebellion for a while. And there was a moment that sort of solidified it for me, because writing a book is such a big commitment. It's such a big sacrifice. I've got to be absolutely right when I make that decision. During the pandemic, I spent a lot of time just sort of coaching and helping people. If I sensed that someone was suffering, I just said, hey, look, do you need somebody to talk to? And reached out to this young guy. He was like a software engineer. And he was telling me, what was going on with him. And he said, I belong to the software engineering community. Now, the main reason we go in there is to fix each other's problems. But during the pandemic, we're talking about everything. He made this powerful statement, Pablo. He said, I don't know if I could make it through this pandemic without this community.
Wow.
I'm locked in this apartment in New York. I can't do anything. I can't go anywhere. I can't see anybody. I can't see my elderly parents. I'm so alone. And I've found a source of help and connection through this online community. Now, this was a business community. And the friendships and the emotion he was building in this community is now extending to the brand. It's creating an emotional switching cost, because for him to leave that software platform would mean he'd have to leave his friends in that community. So it's really, as I say in the book, this idea of evaluating community from a brand marketing perspective is the biggest opportunity in the history of marketing opportunities. When was the last time we went to a marketing conference where they had a track on community? Never. And yet it's just one of the most powerful things we can be doing.
Oh man, so cool. I have so many questions for you, right? Because I genuinely don't know the difference between brand marketing and community, right? Because I paired.
Right.
So what is
That's good for you, man.
yeah.
Lead the revolt.
Yeah. How would
And
you?
I know you are. I know you are.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, you're one of the heroes of the field, I think.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And listen, I remember when you started going hard at this thing, right? Like I remember getting an email from your emails. You were doing the Rise Coin thing. I saw you start to poke the bear, and I started thinking, okay, he is going down this path. He's like on this trail. When you first started, I guess the best way I could put it is I get a sense that you have a strong footing in the old world of marketing, as you put it. As you started talking about this book before you started writing it with old world of marketing folks, how were you differentiating it, right? Like when they were like, isn't that just brand? Like how would you differentiate the difference between brand marketing and this new style of community thing?
Well, so let's step back. Let's step back, and that's a very important question. And let's talk about the difference between brand marketing and direct marketing, because that's where a lot of people get confused. I actually have, I think maybe my favorite chapter in the book isn't till the end. It's like chapter 10. I'm thinking I should have put it first in case people don't, read the whole thing. But it's about measurement.
Yeah.
And I use this example of Gatorade versus Powerade to show the difference. And it gets the community, believe me.
Mm-hmm.
So Gatorade sponsors big events. They sponsor teams. And there's this iconic thing in America, the Gatorade bath. When there's a big win in a match, people sneak up behind a player or a coach, and they dump the whole bucket of Gatorade over their head. Now, this is amazing. I actually saw a football game where Powerade was the sponsor. And the announcers, as they snuck up with this bucket, the announcer said, "Here comes the Gatorade bath." So even when Powerade tries to do it, it's Gatorade in the minds, right? Why? Because through this brand marketing, they've established themselves as this incredibly powerful, helpful, useful energy drink. They own 80% of a $30 billion drink power energy drink market, athletic drink market. Now, Powerade, they're a distant number two. What do they have to do? They have to fight for store promotions. They have to do coupons. They have to do advertising, which is easy to measure, right? You put a coupon, you can trace how many people use a coupon. It's easy to measure, but you're fighting in the trenches every day. And I believe even if Powerade came out with some new breakthrough drink, Gatorade's still going to win because they're so well known. And by the way, if you go to the store, a bottle of Gatorade is $2. A bottle of Powerade is 89 cents. They can charge twice as much. Now, all the stuff that Powerade's doing, coupons, blah, 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 easy to measure. Does Gatorade sell more Gatorade because of the Gatorade bath? Yes. Can you measure it? No. That's the difference between brand marketing and direct marketing. Okay. Now, historically, almost every community activity is looked at as direct marketing. How? It's transactional. Just like my software engineer friend. Why is he there? To solve problems with each other. Mm-hmm. If you're solving problems in a community, you're not calling customer service. So it's easy to measure through cost avoidance. 70% of all company communities out there right now are transactional, solving problems. That's fine, but they're missing the bigger opportunity of collaboration, co-creation, advocacy, loyalty, all these things that we associate with brand love. And that's what my book is saying, is that, look, you're missing the big picture. In a world where marketing is harder than ever. How do we create that emotion and that loyalty? All this other stuff isn't working anymore. This is right in your lap. And for the smart brands that are doing it, like you, it's working and having a profound impact.
I love that, man. Well said. I would even add to the things you said, one of the things that I've found to be extremely valuable is feedback loop, right? It's just like rapid learning and being able to iterate through the proximity to the community, right? Like,
right.
Spending time with your super consumers is such a high ROI activity because you get to really understand the world from how they describe it, right? So then you can then go describe yourself that way. You understand kind of like where the gap is that you can fill for them, so that you can then go develop other products in your pipeline. You know, like that type of stuff to me is the other piece of it inside these great benefits of that I find to be very different.
Yeah. Oh, in chapter 3 in the book, I list a dozen different benefits, including exactly what you're saying: insight, feedback, fast information, first party information that we're not getting from cookies anymore, right? Yep. So you're exactly right. And that's the way we need to look at community. Forget, look, this is really weird. Forget trying to measure it. Just forget it. You're going to get lost in the weeds. Tell the accountants to go have lunch. You go, I'm cracking myself up here. You focus on the powerful emotional benefits. That is going to help you win in the long term. Let your competitors worry about the accountants and ROI. They're going to argue about it forever. You just forget about it for now and watch your brand grow, because you're gonna just crunch your competitors, because they won't be able to compete. If you become the Gatorade of your niche, let them be Powerade, you be Gatorade.
I love it, man. All right, so let's say that we're in a conversation with a I'm starting a business and I've bought into this thing, right? I'm gonna forget
Yeah.
about it. I'm gonna tell my CFO to go have a sandwich and a Coke and call me later.
Go out to
And
lunch.
go to lunch. Yeah, yeah, correct. And I wanna go out there and build community. I would love to hear from you and your experience. I know that you got a framework in the book, and just kind of what you learned as you started, really researching this stuff. If you were to advise a company on building a community, how would you take them through the process?
One of the interesting things is that 70% of communities fail. I mean, that's hard, right? Here's why they fail. Because they start a community to try to sell things, right? You got the accountants, you got the sales managers saying we've got to sell more stuff. Nobody's going to join that community. So it's got to be based on some purpose that transcends selling stuff. Now, you will sell stuff eventually because you build that brand loyalty and you can kind of like work things in to introduce new ideas and new products that you have. You can provide sampling or whatever. But the key idea is you've got to build something where people want to visit there every day, where they want to come back and they want to hear more. And the most important thing, this is sort of unexpected in my research. The most important part of community, a brand community, isn't building a relationship with you. It's when people build relationships with each other.
Well said.
And then that's when the magic really happens. That's when the ideas flow, the creativity happens, and all that love that's happening with these new friendships, it transfers to the brand. There's research that even shows that emotion in community helps businesses get through downturns in the economy. That helps lift them even in the bad times. So we really need to start with a purpose. Hopefully there's something that you stand for that's meaningful to your customers, where you can come together in a community. A really famous example that's, I think, easy for people to understand is Harley Davidson. Harley Davidson's the mission of they've got one of the biggest communities, right? It's HOG, Harley Owners Group, right? And they go out for rides together and they have festivals, and 700,000 go to Sturgis, South Dakota every year. And so this is a huge, it's just all emotion and this connection between men, I say man and machine, but people and machines.
Yeah.
And so here's their purpose. We want to help people fulfill their dreams through the love of motorcycles. Here's what they're really saying, Pablo. We're going to help you be a badass.
We're going to help you look cool.
And every person in that company, every single person from top to bottom, has one goal. We're going to help you be a badass. Now, think how different that is from other companies that sell transportation. Harley Davidson never has a TV ad that says, we're going crazy. It's a President's Day sale. Come down now, $2,000 off. You'll never hear that. They don't have to. They don't need ads. They don't need SEO. They don't need branded content. They've got love. Once you have a community, the rest of your marketing is essentially over.
Yeah.
Traditional marketing anyway, right? It's marketing without marketing. Yeah. It's and that's why it's this huge overlooked opportunity. So you've got to find that intersection of your purpose and their purpose. I've got a whole section on that in the book. I've got, lots of prompts to help you think about, what can you do in this world that you can do better with a community? What's your North Star that are going to attract people to you? How can you make your customers live a better life? How can you make the world a better place with a community than you just doing it yourself?
I love that, man. I love that. I love that. It's fascinating to me how in this world, I think a lot of people's eyes are being open to this, and it feels like there's one truth, right? Like most people I talk to, right? My eye-opening experience, as you know, was my brother's funeral. 1,200
Yeah.
people show up. I'm immediately just like, I don't care what I've thought about the Catholic Church since I'm a teenager. I can't leave this because these are my people. And
Mm.
my head went straight to what you just talked about, right? It is much easier to change products or services than it is to change friends. And I immediately thought about the first time I bought a motorcycle in Southern California, and how people with Harleys were just like, oh, if you didn't know Harley, you're not cool. And this idea that if I ever bought a Harley, I could never change to a different brand because I would lose all my friends. Right? It
That's
becomes
just what we talked about, right?
yeah, that's exactly it, right? And
Yeah.
it's from there I was like, oh, so it solves for churn. What else does it solve for, right? But you're hitting it on the head on this idea of what is the intersection between the purpose that your company exists for and that ideal state of being that the people that you want to build this community around, what do they want to achieve, right? Like we build that into, we say that a lot in when we're launching podcasts. We're just like, you need to find a name for your podcast that is a compliment to the guest and an ideal state for the audience, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
if you can do something like that, now you have a chance of this like content stream becoming a community thing.
Yeah.
um, and that also has another play that I know that you talk about in your book, that it's, you figure out this purpose, and then the other thing I took from the church, which I've recontextualized into live podcasts, is a gathering place, right? Like every community needs a ritual and somewhere that they get together. Can you tell me your learnings on that part?
Yeah, it's something that I'm learning myself. I mean, I have a community, and what I'm hearing over and over and over again is the importance of culture in the community, language in the community, little inside things that make you feel like you belong, you know what's going on there. And the interesting thing, Pablo, and this is like one of many things that's different from a traditional idea of management, marketing management. In a community, I'm finding you can't really force those things to happen. They have to evolve over time. I'll give you an example. I have a community dedicated to learning about the future of marketing. And one of the things we're doing is experimenting with the metaverse. And so once a month, I actually bought a penthouse on the metaverse, still trying to explain that $200 purchase to my wife that I have this digital penthouse,
Yeah.
but it's really cool. It's on the beach, 2 stories. So we meet in the metaverse, and we're teaching each other and we're learning things every time. And the last time we met, or 2 times ago when we met, we had an impromptu, we started dancing because we're learning how to move. And we learned that if you push a button, it does like certain dance moves in the metaverse. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. And it's so joyful. Let's start every metaverse event with a dance.
It's awesome.
Now, I didn't plan it. I didn't schedule it. I didn't demand it. It just happened.
Yeah.
And now that's becoming part of our culture. So I think an important idea in the book is examining this community, not just through the lens of brand marketing, but also through the lens of brand leadership, how different it is to give up command and control and measurement and all these things that we love to control. And even in my community, sometimes things are going, whoa, 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 this is a different direction. And they go, wait a minute, I want to go the other way. and you kind of have to let it flow. And usually it becomes something better. It could become something bolder. The metaverse experiments we're having, I have nothing to do with them. They're all being led by other people in the community. And they're coming up with amazing new ideas that, I never would have thought of.
I go, three things come to mind with that story that you just told me. Number one is I've never wanted to buy an Oculus so bad, and nothing else would have made me do that. Right?
Yeah.
Being part of something cool like that. There's nothing else that would make me want to buy a piece of like a gadget so bad than to just be part of an inside joke with you and a couple of other marketing nerds, right? Like,
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. Actually, there's another important lesson here. So at the end of our party,
mm-hmm.
we jumped into someone else's penthouse, and their penthouse is on a virtual ski slope. So we're out in the snow, and there's a hot tub. We learned you can jump into the hot tub, and you're like submerged in this hot tub. Now, I'm in the hot tub with someone from Brazil, Belgium, Australia, Ireland, Canada.
Yeah, it's cool.
And we're all hanging out in the hot tub with this beautiful sunset over these snow-capped mountains. And people are taking pictures of this, right? And they're putting it on Facebook. They're putting it on Instagram. They're putting it on LinkedIn. So think about this. You're creating something wonderful in this community, so wonderful that people are sharing it outside the community. Think of the power of that from a brand, right? Nobody believes your ads, but they're going to believe these great things that are happening in your community that other people are sharing. And people are saying, how do I join the community?
Yeah.
Oh, I really missed out on that. How do I do that next time?
Yeah, it's exactly what's going on in my head, right? Like this idea that businesses forever have been built on word of mouth, and now you multiply that by digital scale and the amount of digital word of mouth that you can create. If you can get a whole community full of ambassadors that are out there talking about it, it's
in the book I talk about, I think, other than sales conversions, I think social sharing is the most important digital metric.
Yeah.
But again, because the evidence, the research shows that trust in brands, advertising, marketing has gone down. I think it's 15 years in a row now. Who do people trust? We trust each other. We trust our friends on LinkedIn. We trust our neighbors. We trust business leaders. Yeah. We trust founders, entrepreneurs, technical experts. We don't trust, what we see in pop-up ads. Yeah. So the idea, if we can create something cool that people want to share outside the community, that is a great measure of brand success.
Agree 100%, man. The other thing that story makes me think about is I have a friend in my community, Vanya Logan, who I call her the community scientist. She said something very profound to me. That's this idea that you can't create an inclusionary environment without being exclusionary. And by that, I mean, like, it's these inside jokes and the where you get, like
that's powerful. Yeah. And there's a problem with that too. I'm having this problem right now. When people start getting into this groove of the community, the new people coming in, they're not participating. Mm-hmm. They're kind of stalking, I think. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying to find ways, trying to look at ambassadors. If people aren't participating, why? What's going on? How can we make you feel more comfortable? Is there something something that's confusing to you? Because I think your friend is absolutely right. But at the same time, I'm a teacher. I don't want to exclude anybody.
Yeah.
If you want to learn, you have a place. I want to lower those walls. I want to lower those boundaries. So it's kind of a two-edged sword.
Listen, I think you're spot on in how you're thinking of solving it, right? Like it is you do have to be exclusionary to a certain extent, right? Like if you don't have inside jokes and you don't have your own rituals and you don't have your own language,
Mm.
like not everybody's gonna, it's not a community if it doesn't have a defined boundary, right? But what you're saying is right. It's having the ambassadors that see somebody that's there for that characteristic you're looking for, somebody that's there to learn, and then having a identified group of people, self-selected or not, that are there to reach out and be like, hey, are you really here to learn? If you are, then all you really need to know to feel a part of this thing is like, this is the Schaefer dance, and over here's the
Yeah,
secret password to get you to
push
the
this button and you can dance.
yeah, yeah. I think there's gonna be a dance in the metaverse named after you, like the electric
Yeah.
slide. I see it happening, man. So Mark, you talked about this idea of completely punting on metrics, right? But I think that is a
Yeah.
okay, cool, because that's a
I
luxury not
kind of
most people
said that
have.
on, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I want to say, hunting on metrics goes against every grain in my body. But what I want people to think about is, look, if you're a company, you're already doing brand marketing to a certain extent. All right. If you're doing networking, if you're attending networking, if you're going to trade show events, if
Mhm,
you have a trade show
mhm.
booth, I mean, this is all brand marketing. All I'm saying is you're doing it anyway. Put this in that category. That's number one. Number two, I do in the book suggest other measurements like social sharing. Are people sharing it outside outside your thing? I think you need to look at engagement. And I think the biggest community in the world, I believe, other than maybe Apple, is Sephora. So Sephora, this is, I mean, they're cosmetics and skincare, and they've got a community with like 6 million members. I think they're spending close to $2 billion a year on their community, something like this. And the person who runs that community says engagement. If they're engaging with our ideas, with our new products, with our content, that's the leading indicator to sales. So it's just a different way of measuring that I think a lot of brand managers or marketing managers might be unfamiliar with, and they're more touchy feely.
Yep.
Engagement isn't sales, but that's the sign of a healthy community.
Yeah, totally, man. I guess I had the good fortune of just kind of hitting that home run with JWB right out of the bat. But it's allowed us to really,
Yeah,
yeah, it's allowed us to really simplify the way that we look at it. And what the way that we look at it is we look at, is somebody a part of this thing or are they not a part of this thing? And then we compare lifetime values and pipeline acceleration, right? Like how quickly do they convert to whatever they're doing? What's the average order value, right? For the first time ever in that community, they started selling not just one home as an investment property, but 3 and 4 homes at a time to a first
yeah,
time buyer. Whereas
yeah,
before it used to be like you'd come in, you buy one, and then eventually you're going to get a couple more. So, so we started doing it that way, and it's really just about kind of like what's the right word in marketing? I'm thinking of the word sequestering, but it's not. It's delineating between people that take part in community activities, and that's a 0 or 1, right? Like, have you taken
yeah,
part? That's the engagement metric. Take
yeah,
part in a community activity
mm,
over X period, right? For JWB, we've had the luxury of being real
yeah,
strict with it. It's like, have you
yeah,
been to one of the live shows over 30 days? And then comparing these lifetime value,
right,
cost of client acquisition, and average purchase price and pipeline acceleration across it. That's the way that we've really been able to justify. But it took us like 7-8 months before even being able to like bake that number in. And
yeah,
before that, what we just saw was, are the people that were already clients that had already shown to be happy, were they re-engaging with the company and asking about other things and like talking to the team more often or bringing other folks in, right? So like I find that early on, if you have the established company, it's all about our clients that you hadn't really heard from in a long time re-engaging with you at a rapid rate. And if that's happening, then you're on the right track. If that's not happening, then we continue to iterate till we
Yeah.
figure that piece out, right? Are people raising their hands?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I think that's smart, and I love the way that you were patient and you learned and eventually came up with sort of a custom metric that made sense for you. I love that.
Yeah, and I guess it's probably not, that's a custom metric for them, and we're trying to reverse engineer to everybody, and we'll see how it bakes in for everybody else. But I
And
find that
and the other thing is, I think we also have to, how do you put a value on ideas?
yeah,
How do you put it? How do you put a number on advocacy? So that's a lot of the soft things
yeah,
that are beginning, that will be coming out of the community that we can't overlook, and sort of have to trust the system.
totally, totally. And to your point of the qualitative data, right? Like within the first 3 months, we had enough engagement to have enough faith to say who we thought was our client isn't really our client. Let's redesign the
Yeah.
website to speak to that person,
Oh,
and
that's fantastic.
and it all adds up.
What a great case study. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it was like
Great story.
they were selling to people that they thought were already real estate people, but they realized that really the people that are buying from them are W
Well,
two
I
employees.
wish I had that story for the book. It's beautiful. It's fantastic.
Yeah, well, next one, man. We just got to hang out more often, Mark.
How do we do?
How how does this change how you operate going forward, Mark? Like, are you're a if I understand your business, you have a consultancy and you already have established brands and stuff like that. Does this I would love to know how this changes how you consult for brands and how it changes how you grow your own business.
Well, this is going to sound really dumb. when when it has to evolve. And when I write a book, it's not necessarily strategic for my business. And that's the part that sounds dumb, I think. When I write a book, the only thing I am obsessed with is this an important idea that will connect to people in a meaningful way? Does this solve a problem? Am I creating something that is absolutely new in the world of marketing ideas and books? That's number one. If I can do that, it propels a new audience, new conversations. I get to be on a podcast like this. I get to be interviewed. It's sort of like the flywheel. A new book is like a new flywheel for me. Now the book is out, and so I'm going to create a new speech. So there are certain organizations that hire me every year. The American Bar Association will say, "Oh, Mark, we see you have a new book out. Can you come and talk to us about that?" Right? So it's sort of a trigger
Mhm.
to help me connect with a lot of my customers. It may result in expanding my consulting practice. I have not codified that yet, but just like today, you're asking me basic questions about community,
Mhm.
ideas from the book that are applicable to everybody, and I think yes, I can eventually help businesses with that. So instead of like having a business strategy
Mm.
and then writing a book, I write a book and then let the strategy evolve.
That's interesting. That's cool. I like
Yeah,
that.
because the book's the most important thing. The book is
Yeah.
it has to be great and bold and beautiful in every single way. That is my legacy. That is my reputation. And when I write a book, there's only one thing in my mind. I will never let you down. I'm not trying to sell more stuff. I'm trying to create something that will connect with you in a meaningful way.
Awesome, man. Well said. Well, I mean, I'm honored to be a part of that legacy that you're leaving behind, man. It's really, really cool. Anything I haven't asked you about, man? Anything that you think is worth, you know, diving into a little bit before we wrap this thing up here?
Well, I mean, the only thing, a lot of people might be listening and maybe they're fans of you or fans of JWB, and they might be saying, well, I'm a clothing retailer or I'm, whatever. How does this relate to me? There's a lot of really diverse examples in the book. I worked hard to create new case studies, including you. You're one of the case studies in the book. There's B2B, there's B2C, there's nonprofits, there's solo entrepreneurs, there's stay-at-home moms, there's all kinds of different examples in the book of, number one, brands creating a community. And there's also some really interesting examples in the book where the community becomes the business. And I think that's another model that, a lot of people are going to be thinking about. So I think that's one thing, is that there's something for everybody in this book. Small businesses, big businesses, giant global businesses. There's all kinds of examples in the book. You'll find every kind of business will find an inspiration in belonging to the brand.
I firmly believe that, right? Like we figured out that it really only took about 30 people to really drive about $40 million worth of revenue. So it's a very approachable model to me. And like you said, right, these are all activities. I parachuted into marketing because I was just a giant networker, right? Like to me, these are all inputs that we're all doing that, if you think about it, the way that you framed it in this book is going to be more of a flywheel effect as opposed to just like you got this bucket of this and this bucket of that. I'm curious, man, what's the smallest community that you found or that really moved the needle in any way? Is there anything that sticks out to you that was like, wow, this is smaller than I thought, and it had outsized results?
I don't know. I'd have to think. I haven't thought about that.
Okay.
It's sort of ironic because what I highlighted in the book were like super successful communities that were pretty big. I'd have to say yours.
Nice. All right, cool.
Yeah. You're the winner.
All right. I like it. I'll take it. Mark, I would like to before letting you go here, I know that you've got this like awesome event coming up in April that I'm unfortunately not gonna be able to. Do you want to promote that? I mean, we're obviously talking about the book. Promote yourself for a little while here, or whatever you wanna
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much. Thank you for being so well prepared and asking such great questions. And so it's easy to find me if you can remember businesses grow. You don't have to remember how to spell Schaefer, but businesses grow. You can find a blog, it's free. Podcast, it's free. Book, it costs a little bit of money, but for 2 years of my time, it's a bargain. So you can find all of my books belonging to the brand. Is my 10th book, but I've also wrote, we mentioned Marketing Rebellion, and Known is the best-selling book on personal branding. So there's a little bit for everybody. I do have an event. It's called The Uprising. It's sort of like a summer camp for marketing geeks. It's my dream. It's my dream come true. I have one in the Smoky Mountains in April, and I'm going to have one at a castle in Ireland in September of 2023. So that's really quite an amazing opportunity. And yeah, there's a lot of different things you can learn about me and my businesses on businessesgrow.com.
Man, I guess I'm just gonna have to make that Ireland trip a reality.
You know what? There's actually a couple people from America and Canada that are going to go to Ireland. I'm gonna put it on the schedule, man. We're going to do falconry. You got to go.
Listen, I love whiskey. I love that
whiskey.
That part.
We're going full medieval.
It's going full medieval. Man, I just want to really thank you, Mark, for doing this, putting me in the book, like reaching out to me and all this stuff. But more than anything, I can't tell you how in early 2019 I was just like, had this idea and nobody knew what the heck I was talking about. And when somebody put your book, The Marketing Rebellion, in front of me, I was like, man, if this guy is talking about it and who you are and what you represent, the amount of validation and something to stand on when I desperately needed something to stand on, that book was for me. I would
Yeah.
not be here without it. So
Oh, thank you.
yeah, man,
That
from the
book
bottom of my
certainly, I
heart.
mean, that book, I started off by saying that book, I was worried that a lot of people would hate it, and just the opposite happened. It's really become a sensation.
Yeah,
It's definitely my most popular book so far.
yeah,
I think Belonging to the Brand might beat it. We'll see.
I hope so.
But yeah, it's had a big impact on people. It's very kind of you to say that.
Yeah.
And this, just getting to know you, becoming friends with you, has been a highlight for me as well. So thank you.
Awesome, man. And just to further compliment you, I love the Marketing Companion, your podcast. If you're, if you're listening to this, you're obviously a listener of a podcast and you're into marketing. So check out the Marketing Companion, man. That episode on Chat GPT was really, that's my new thing that I've been like tinkering with
Yeah.
exclusively because of that, right? So like
Yeah.
just top-notch stuff and great like thought leadership stuff and things that you want to take away. So go check that out. Mark Shaefer, thanks for being on the show, man. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.